The meeting is live and we are recording and the attendees have been admitted.
All right,
Thank you.
fantastic.
Great. So I would like to call the regular meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners to order, starting at 1:20. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Crawley.
Present.
Commissioner Ryring.
Present.
Commissioner Mateusz.
Present.
Commissioner Zemke. Commissioner Lorenz.
Okay, so we have a quorum, and I want to apologize to members of the public that we started later than normal. We actually had this meeting going and we had a technical glitch. So now it seems like we're back on track. So welcome to our meeting of the Harbor Board on November 17th, 2021 at 1:20. Before we get started with our regular agenda item, I just wanted to report out of our special meeting in our closed session that there are no reportable items. So we'll close the special meeting and the closed session for that. And I will go to item B for public comments. And it looks like we have a hand up by John Olam.
Thank you, President Crawley, for this opportunity. For those of you who missed it, last week there was an article in the Half Moon Bay Review that revealed that the Harbor District lost its capacity to provide rescue services at the harbor for at least 2 weeks. Both boats were broken down.
Oh.
Currently, it sounds as though one boat is still broken down, and you have rather limited rescue capability because of that. Nothing that could come up or could happen short of somebody getting hurt makes it clearer that the spending priorities of this board and of many boards in the past have been seriously messed up. Right now, because of Commissioner Crawley and Commissioner Mateusz, the Harbor District is obligated to spend millions of dollars on the infrastructure and the operation of an agency's marina, an agency that has 10 times the revenue that the Harbor District has and has far more flexibility in generating new revenue. So we're putting people's lives at risk because of the way the Harbor District has been ran, not by staff, but by the various boards, including this one. You need to acknowledge that you're making mistakes, that your priorities are messed up and you need to change them. If you don't change your priorities, you're going to end up with no fishing fleet out there at Pillar Point Harbor, no rescue capacity, a fuel dock that's not useful or usable, and a pier that collapses because of negligence to the already known deficiencies in the support columns. Please get your act together. Thanks.
Okay, are there any other people who'd like to make a public comment? If you'd like to make a public comment, please do so now and raise your hand. Do you have any emails or anything, Melanie? No? Okay, I will close. Thank you. I'll close public comment and we will go to item C, which is consent. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that?
I had one comment on bills and claims.
Okay.
I see that the total appears at the beginning and the end of all the columns. I have not been able to uncover a part where those two numbers are different. Is there a reason why we need the amount on that sheet twice?
Jim?
Tom, you lost me on that.
On bills and claims, when you look at the list of items, It has the party that we're paying, and it has the total, and it breaks out administrative commission, Pillar Point, Oyster Point, and then the totals again. So the total is on there twice. It starts all the numbers, it ends all the numbers. Why do we have it on twice?
Yeah,
Julie.
we can make that adjustment, so that just to double check that the pieces add up to the total, but we can not print that column if it makes it clear.
Did that help you, Tom?
I don't see a reason for it to be on twice personally.
Sure, yeah, we can eliminate that for December's meeting.
Great, thank you.
And I just have a comment, if I may. The consent calendar always represents and tracks the hard work that our staff does each month. And this month is particularly laden. We have the customary monthly capital improvements update, which is always impressive. And we also have Jim's 2021 year-end goals and objectives. And I just want to extend my thanks and gratitude to Jim, John, Julie, Lizzie, everybody who's doing such a great job, all staff on behalf of the district. It's a phenomenal amount of work that gets done every month.
Commissioner Zemke?
I just to echo Nancy's point, I think the staff is doing a great job.
Jim, you have your hand up. Is that intentional?
Yes, it is. I just want to highlight in the goals and objectives for the general manager. It happened on November 5th, 2021. So just recently, the 2021-2022 budget that Julie and her team put together was recognized again for the second year in a row by the government's Financial Accounting Officers Association. So I want to commend Julie and her staff in putting together such a great, fantastic budget that meets the requirements and follows the guidance of the board. So great job by Julie and her team.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Jim. And I just want to echo what everyone else has said about the great work that the Harbor District has done, staff in particular, but also I want to thank the Harbor Board members for their leadership in, continuing to move forward. And, we're actually getting things done this year. And I'm very proud of what we're doing. And I think that the working relationship between staff and the Harbor Board hasn't been better than now. And I think because of this great working relationship, we're able to get things done. I think the Harbor Board commissioners have been very diligent in, trying to make sure that we're on track, but there's no way that we could do this without staff. So Jim, I want to commend you and your staff, Julie, John, everybody, Chris Tibby, everyone on the Harbor, both at Oyster Point and at Pillar Point. But Jim, I have to tell you, your report on which is your goals and objectives, that was a very extensive report and it was great. And so I would like to encourage members of the public who have not read that report to do so. I think it really summarizes all the things that we've done and want to continue doing. And I think that the relationship and the partnership and the working relationship between the Harbor Board and the staff is the strongest I have seen in the 6 years I've been on this board. So we have a motion and a second. I think if there are no other discussion remarks, then let's do a roll call, please, for the consent calendar.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Aye. So that motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. We'll move on to the discussion items. D, number 11, consideration of a commercial activity permit for Tideline Marine Group. Lizzie, I think your name is on here. So if you would like to kick this off, or if you want someone else to do this, that either way is fine. But this is an issue that we've been looking at for a couple of years now.
If it would
Lizzie,
be all right to ask John to take over in my stead, that would be great.
Absolutely, John.
Yeah, Lizzie,
Please.
I'll take this item, and you can chime in for a little more detail since you may have spoken to more of the players than I. So this item is for the board to consider the application for a commercial activity permit from Tideline Marine Group at Oyster Point Marina until December 31st, 2021. And if approved, authorize the general manager to execute the commercial activity permit. And is the commercial activity permit permits are annual, so they do want to have the board consider this commercial activity permit application, even though it will only be good for a month, because our commercial activity permits are self-renewing unless there's some challenge. So it's they would just pay the fee that they've already paid for the application for this year. Then they would have to pay again January 1. Tideline Marine Group is requesting approval to conduct a charter business utilizing 4 vessels at Oyster Point Marina. The vessels would run charters, ticketed cruises, and small-scale ferry commute services, public or private, the schedule for which has yet to be determined. If approved, pursuant to the terms and conditions of this commercial activity permit, permittee would be allowed to operate 4 vessels in the capacity of a public, for-profit ferry business owned and insured by the permittee. Charters and events would be a one-time scheduled departure and return. The small-scale ferry commute service would be a regularly scheduled service. Currently, another ferry operation, Prop SF, operates a ferry service out of OPM under a commercial activity permit using the same guest dock this applicant wishes to use. This applicant says they would not be a problem with a conflict, and they would work around other operators' landing and departure schedules, including the existing permittee Prop SF. Ticket events would involve individuals from the public purchasing a ticket for a cruise to include whale watching, Giants, Warriors games, bird watching events, etc. Permittee has already paid the application fee for 2021 and will be required to pay deposit and passenger fees as adjusted annually. Applicant will adhere to all county and state guidelines for COVID-19 safety and has included a detailed charter vessel operations plan consistent with those guidelines. That's it.
Thank you. I'll open this up for commissioner discussion now, unless Jim, you have anything to add to that.
We did receive, after we published the agenda and staff packages, we did receive one email from Prop SF showing us that they intend to continue full operations or begin full operations again as early as late December and January, when the businesses in Oyster Point start bringing staff back to the office, and they published a regular schedule. This cap with Tideline will be restricted in the sense they cannot interrupt or interfere with the existing ferry service, Prop SF. If the interference does occur, then as required by the cap or as permitted by the cap can be canceled for interference. So we'll be watching that closely. And I know they're both professional groups with Tideline and with Prop FX, and I believe we can work through any challenges that we see. But Tideline did submit, or Prop SF did submit that schedule, and it has been posted on the agenda website.
Any commissioners have any questions? Because I actually have a question. But
Yeah, Virginia, I had a question or two. Are there any other, I know we've got Prop SF, and then this would make a second ferry service. Are there any other entities that would have access to that guest dock?
The guest dock was originally installed with the intent of being just that, a guest dock, so that visiting vessels could have somewhere to stay overnight or for a couple of days as transient tenants. However, we at Oyster Point have historically always had enough empty slips to accommodate traveling tenant transient vessels. So we've not had to rely on the guest dock considerably. However, it is where we ask boats to come initially when we do initial inspections. As a new boat arrives in the harbor, before we will allow it to sign an agreement, we have to make sure that it's in fact seaworthy. So we do due diligence by ensuring that and asking them to first come to our guest dock and be inspected. In addition, a lot of times people coming in late at night or whatever, when we're not there or they cannot talk to us on the radio, they have no idea where to go because they've not been assigned a slip. Therefore, they come immediately to the guest dock. So the guest dock needs to still have some use by the harbor district, but to answer your question, other than that, we have no other demand on the guest dock other than Prop SF at present, who oftentimes with their 50-foot boat pre-COVID had to stand off with one of the boats because we had one of our tenant boats or one of our transient boats at the guest dock. So they'd have to stand off and wait for their own boat to move before they could then come to the guest dock.
Does Prop, I know I happened to be out at the harbor on Monday, and there was a small ferry boat that came up to the guest dock. I assume it was Prop SF, and it took passengers only there for a short time and dropped off 7 passengers. It's the guest dock big enough to accommodate 2 of the smaller ferry boats at once, or we're trying to leave it just one ferry offloading?
It is large enough. The guest dock is large enough to accommodate 2 of these 50-foot charter vessels at the same time. If the district is not using the
I see. Okay.
The guest dock.
Okay. And I guess my second question is at some point, if usage of the guest dock increases at some point in the future, and I don't know where we're at as far as planning repurposing of the fuel dock or Pier 7 or Dock 7. Is there any ideas out there right at this point?
I'll say right now at present, and Jim maybe will speak to this more, but at present we're still in a discussion mode with the city of South San Francisco on what we're going to do with potentially do with Dock 7. The district is working aggressively in design engineering to replace the gangways for docks 1 through 6 and replace docks 12, 13, and 14 in the East Harbor. And then the docks 1 through 6 will be replaced in the next few years. But Dock 7, there's not been any funding or specific plans for the replacement of Dock 7 at present.
Okay.
And with Dock 7, Commissioner Zemke, that's part of the study being done by South San Francisco on how to best use Dock 7. And of course, we're hoping to integrate the harbor master's office with the new spit construction and also visitors serving dockage, which would include people pulling up for recreational purposes and just coming to that side of the bay, or working in a fuel pier possibly and or ferry landings. And that would, because our guest dock will be moved with the new spit setup. So that's all under consideration on how to best utilize and provide space for ferries, because I see the demand for the ferry services only growing over time with the new buildings, not decreasing. And the Harbor District has had a strong desire to be part of that and making sure we do what we can to get cars off the road.
Right. Okay. the last question I have is the fees under the cap. The fees were $900 for 2 vessels and then $600 for every additional vessel. And they are applying for all 4 vessels under that fee, or?
Yes, four vessels they're applying to use. Yes.
Okay, and those are not berthed at
No.
No,
Oyster Point. Okay,
no.
okay, those are the only comments I had.
Commissioner Matoush?
Did we decide, or are there passenger service fees involved in their passengers?
Yes, there are passenger services fees.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ryring?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
So I have a couple of questions, actually. So, I think this was the same ferry transportation company that came to our attention in October of 2019. I think when we had our meeting in South San Francisco. Is that correct?
Yes, we had it actually, that meeting was at Oyster Point Marina.
Correct, right, at Oyster Point Marina. So so John, you're saying that this is for just 1 month, correct? For the remainder of the year, essentially. Is that right?
Yeah, the current commercial activity permit is for the rest of 2021, which would just be the rest of November and December. Then it would be self-renewing, though, if the board should approve, would be self-renewing for years to come, unless there's challenges, and then the general manager could look at those challenges, consider the challenges, whatever they are, and could, in fact, as the commercial activity permit states, cancel a commercial activity permit at any time.
So have the issues that were of concern back in 2019 changed or been resolved? I mean, what's the difference between now and 2019, besides the fact that we're now post-pandemic, and at that time we were pre-pandemic, and it just seems like nothing was going on during the pandemic.
Yeah,
We didn't approve this in 2019, and sorry, John, let me just finish. Your recommendation was asking for the board to consider the application, not to do this one way or the other. So I just want to understand what the change has been to approve this when we were so, I don't want to say against it, but we didn't approve it 2 years ago. Actually, 2 years ago, pretty much to this.
John, if I can
25 months ago.
But there's no real difference from 2019 through today, with the exception of a change of approach from deciding off the bat there's going to be a conflict and they're not going to work together, to assuming that they will work together and give them that opportunity. If they don't work together, then we'll cancel the cap. But like I said in my initial remarks, I think they're both professional companies, and that we can work together as we are limited with only the one guest dock. And then in the future, when we have better facilities, we can always, our goal is to have better ferry docking systems built into the new system. So I think that there was a strong leaning back in 2019 to protect or limit competition against one company or another. And now it's through my advice and what I believe and recommended to the board was, and I still do, is let the companies work it out and provide a service to the public that they need. I think the more ferry service we have in there, the better. And if Tideline can get their business operating and in and out of there, it'll only be greater when the new docks are built and they have a separate landing, if we can do that. So I think that's the change from 2019 to now. And I am very happy to manage that, any if there's any disagreement on landing times or dock usage, I'm more than happy to deal with that through the cap.
If I remember correctly, the issue about the guest dock was the big issue, right? How it wasn't as sturdy or even accessible because it's a shared dock essentially. So, I mean, if you're saying, Jim, that those issues are not as big of a concern now, which is kind of hard to believe since we're going to be getting back into, well, not we, but I think it sounds like the businesses are preparing to get back into, you know, the full swing of things with people going into the office. Although I think that's going to even be a little more, I guess, iffy still. I mean, I just don't want us to forget why we didn't approve them last time.
And I agree with you. And again, if it really falls on Tideline as the cap applicant, they have told me that they will work with any other ferry service on there and not interrupt their schedules. And if that's the case, I think we should let them do it and let them show us that they will operate as they state. If they don't,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I just thought it was an infrastructure issue as well. So that's why I just want to make sure that we can accommodate based on
the infrastructure issue was also related to Dock 7, where we're temporarily landing them. And Dock 7 is not a dock to be used for passenger service. It's not in good enough shape.
Okay. I see that we have a hand up for public comment. I'll open it up for public comment right now. Taylor Lewis.
Oh, hello. This is actually Danielle Worth. Taylor and I share a Zoom account, so apologies. So the comment is, I'm with Tideline Marine Group, and I just wanted to share that we work with the Port of San Francisco. We've been a tenant there for about 6 years now and have a contract in place for the next 15. We work with Prop, or we share landing spaces with Prop in other areas and with other operators, including Golden Gate Transit and WIDA. We also submitted a form that we fill out prior to landing at the ferry building or in downtown Sausalito and downtown Tiburon that shows our intent, like our float plan and the times that we'll land and depart. And we get approval prior to landing so that we don't interfere with other operators. And we have a very good record of not doing that with Golden Gate Transit, WIDA, and Prop. Also, we are, I don't believe we're looking at 4 vessels for this. In the beginning, we're looking at 1 or 2 vessels. So I just wanted to go on the record and clear that up. And also our intention is just to start with charter services for now. We would like to grow into a commute service when the demand is there. So that's something we just wanted to be upfront about. Is that something we would like to do eventually, but we don't have immediate plans for that. So this would just be for a charter basis and special events. And that's all I have.
Thank you. So can I don't mean to hog up the time, but I do have a question. So this is, like you had mentioned, John, is for the remainder of the year. So are you saying that, and it sounds like this will just automatically be renewed. So do you think it makes more sense to have a review before an automatic renewal?
Or are you asking me, Virginia?
Either one, yeah.
Jim, General Manager, answer that one.
Thank you, John. With respect to the automatic renewal, there's only, by the time we get it signed, there'll only be about 5 weeks left in the current cap for 2021. And then 2022 caps, we're already renewing them, and several of them already been signed and are ready to go for 2022. So with respect to an automatic renewal, I don't see it as an issue to automatically renew for 2022 because the cap does have clauses in it to modify it or change it or cancel it if the district needs to.
Right. So I was actually not even referring to the remainder of the year because I know that it's only like a month and a half-ish
right.
Amount of time. and I get the automatic renewal for this upcoming year. It's basically going to be a 13-month situation, essentially, It sounds like. But it also sounds like that the automatic renewal will be automatic past 2022. Is that correct?
Normally, but again, if we have reasons to evaluate CAP for the next year or conditions change, then we can always modify that as part of our process.
Okay.
In addition, Virginia, just to be clear, I don't know that Jim, touched on it really, but I'm the one that started out by saying it renews automatically. That's not exactly true. We send out for renewal again. However, the general manager reviews everyone and signs everyone. Therefore, it is before they're renewed. So if we obviously have had challenges with one of the commercial activity permits and it comes across the general manager's desk for renewal, even if we didn't tell him he ought to reconsider, he would be aware of it and he wouldn't sign that one.
Okay. Any other commissioner discussions or questions, comments? Then
started towards increased ferry usage. The more cars we can get off the road, the better. So I look forward to seeing this group and others work through the process and have things iron out and us become a real good transportation hub and link.
I agree with that. So is there a motion to approve the application for a commercial activity permit for Tideline Marine Group at Oyster Point Marina until December 31st, 2021, and if approved, authorize the general manager to execute the commercial activity permit?
I will so move.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion, remarks or anything? Okay, roll call please, Melanie.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Commissioner Chan-Crawley?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
So that motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Danielle and Taylor, for making your comment. So we'll go on to item 12, which is the Mavericks Surf Company. Jim.
Good afternoon again. This is an agenda item to discuss a new lease for the Maverick Surf Company, LLC, to release the current space in which they occupy. Their current lease has expired and they're on a month-to-month right now. I have met with the partners of the LLC and discussed the leases with them and came up with an agreement as documented in the attached lease to lease out the properties to Mavericks LLC, with the rents being for the first year increased to $2,760 for the first year in the lease, the second year $4,932, and then again increase of, excuse me, I got the wrong number there. $2,700 for the first year, $3,111 for the second year, and $3,522 for the third year. And then 3% or CPI, whatever is greater. And that was the main term and condition for that lease. And I present that lease to the board for review and approval.
Okay, I'll open this up to commissioner comments or questions. Commissioner Matoush, do you have anything to say?
Staff did an excellent job of moving this forward, and I look forward to approving it.
Commissioner Ryring?
Yeah, agreed. Well done.
Commissioner Zemke?
I agree. It's well done, and I think we can move on.
I agree. Thank you, Jim, Julie, for all of your work. And also, I just want to do a little shout out to Mavericks as well, because they've been a long time tenant, and it's, you know, these strong partnerships that allow us to have these conversations and, you know, kind of keep everything in order and in shape right now. And we're very pleased to have Mavericks continue to be a tenant, at least based on the report. So is there a motion to authorize the general manager to execute the negotiated real property lease with Maverick Surf Company LLC, which has already been reviewed by district council?
So moved.
Jinx.
Okay, so Commissioner Matoush moved and Commissioner Ryring seconded. I don't see any hands raised for public comment. So why don't we take a vote on this?
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
Great, the motion carries. Thank you, thank you. And we're now on item 13, which is replacement of Oyster Point Marina entrance navigation aids invitation for bid. John, I think this is your report.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a motion to enter into an agreement with the low bidding contractor found to be qualified and responsible, Power Engineering Construction Company, for the replacement of Oyster Point Marina Entrance Navigation Aids project for an amount not to exceed $339,800, with a 10% contingency in the event there is a need for change orders due to unforeseen challenges, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve an increase in capital expenditures appropriation of $373,780 to be funded by available working capital. The two navigation aids currently installed at the entrance of the Oyster Point Marina are over 22 years old. The devices themselves are privately owned and maintained by the district and are installed to provide boaters with visible channel markers, allowing for safe entry into the marina. Exposure to the elements have resulted in this, in the stabilization cables being rusted through, and wood-boring organisms have led to significant rotting and deterioration of the support pilings. Staff publicly advertised an invitation for bid to replace the navigation aids consistent with the public contract code. That invitation for bid closed on October 21 of this year. 4 contractors responded to the invitation for bid, and in accordance with the public contract code, the district determined the low bidder, Power Engineering Construction Company, was qualified and responsible. Therefore, staff recommends the board accept the low bid and approve the recommended motion.
Thank you, John. Any commissioner comments or questions?
I just had a question. I'm assuming that this work is done without obstructing the entrance to the harbor.
Yes, in fact, we actually, the board approved and we moved forward a little over a year ago with hiring a professional design engineering company through a request for proposal process. So Foth Engineering has assisted us with all the technical specifications and permitting in order to install these new navigation aids. Part of that was that we're going to, in fact, leave the current navigation aids in place so that we are constantly, the boaters are constantly safe during construction, and then they'll be removed after the new ones are in place. And all the work takes place outside the channels. So access will never be hindered.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Is there a motion to authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with the low bidding contractor found to be qualified and responsible, which is Power Engineering Construction Company, for the replacement of Oyster Point Marina Entrance Navigation Aids Project for an amount not to exceed $339,800 with a 10% contingency in the event there is a need for change orders due to unforeseen challenges, and to authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations of $373,780 to be funded by available working capital.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. I don't see any public comments out there. So if you'd like to make a public comment, this is your time. Okay, why don't we do a roll call, please, Melanie?
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Great, that motion carries. And now we are on to item 14, which is the Coastal Conservancy grant approval for Pillar Point Surfer Beach Public Restroom and Green Space Project. John.
This is me again. This is a motion to adopt resolution number 21-16 to authorize acceptance and execution of a Coastal Conservancy grant for $212,812 and authorize the general manager to expend the grant monies to assist in the construction costs of the Pillar Point Harbor Surfers Beach Public Restroom and Green Space Project. The district was informed of the successful Coastal Conservancy grant application and award of $212,812 on September 23rd, 2021. The district's grant consultant, California Consulting, prepared the successful application and received letters of support from Supervisor Horsley and the city of Half Moon Bay. The grant monies will assist in the construction costs for the new public restrooms, green space, and additional ADA parking adjacent to the highly used Surfers Beach. The completed project will provide much-needed restrooms with an outdoor shower facility, in addition to providing an accessible seating viewing area and information educational platforms. Therefore, staff recommends the board approve aforementioned motion and adopt the resolution enabling the district to utilize the approved grant funding.
Great, I'd like to open this up to commissioner comments or questions.
Move to proceed.
Okay. No comments or questions, Commissioner Matthews? Any public comment? Okay, you have a motion to adopt resolution 21-16, right? To authorize the acceptance and execution of the Coastal Conservancy grant. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. There are no further comments or questions. Let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Aye. So that motion carries. Thank you so much, John and Jim. Okay, item 15, commercial activity permit and potential fees for off the boat fish sales. Jim, I believe this is your report. Take it away.
Good afternoon again. This is a staff report with respect to the commercial activity permit and potential fees for off the boat fish sales. Again, for history, on February 17th, 2021, the board directed staff to conduct a public workshop with stakeholders to discuss this issue. On September 28th, a special meeting of the Board of Harbor Commissioners was held for the purpose of hosting that public workshop, and several members of the community participated and provided input. The input received during the workshop was considered in the development of this staff report and recommended actions. And following that workshop, an updated draft was shared with current off-the-boat commercial activity permit holders and other interested parties for review and comment. Several additional comments were received, both written and verbally. Written responses are attached to the staff report, and those comments were considered in this final draft of the commercial activity permit. We did receive one additional comment based on the redraft after the publish of this agenda, and I'll discuss that one email which I forwarded to the commissioners and posted on the website. The motion being recommended by staff is to approve the commercial activity permit for off-the-boat sales to include a 2.5% fee on gross sales to be effective January 1st, 2022. In the alternative, the board can consider approval of the commercial activity permit as amended to reflect the flat fee as drafted in the staff reports in tables 7 and 8, or the board can consider providing staff with further direction on off-the-boat fees, charges, and direct the general manager to return to the board with a draft proposal for consideration by the board on the direction given. Before I go any further, I want to thank a lot of our commercial fishermen down at Pillar Point Harbor. They were willing to work with us and give us frank input and discussion, which I appreciated. And I did listen to all that and I did consider it. And their input did result in change from the original draft. And I want to further stress the San Mateo County Harbor District has had is a strong supporter and active proponent for direct to the public off the boat sales of seafood as an alternative avenue for fishers to sell their catch and earn income. And we continue to be a strong supporter of that. We talked about the burden on the harbor from all the visitors coming in and customers coming in, and to cover those costs associated with access, with supporting off the boat sales on a public facility and in accordance with the Harbor NAP code and district ordinances. The district is now exploring, as proposed in this staff report, a new fee that would be imposed on permit holders. The fee would be integrated into the commercial activity permit and will provide permit customers of the permit holders access and use of the public facilities within the harbor for the purpose of conducting commercial activity of purchasing seafood directly off the boats. Currently, the district practices the issue a limited commercial activity permit for off the boat sales for a single fee of currently $290. This permit does not at this time require any additional fees or percentage fees as required by the Harbor Navigation Code and the San Mateo Ordinance Code. The insurance core requirements was a significant point of concern by our commercial fishermen. And so we significantly reduced the amount of insurance required to be in line with other small commercial fishing harbors for this type of activity. And we've also recommending excluding open skiffs of 26 feet in length with outboard motors. Won't need to be required to get this full insurance requirements. So if you're an open skiff and 26 feet in length or less, operating with outboard motors, then you'll be exempt from the insurance requirements. There was a strong push by our tenants to exclude visiting vessels from conducting off-the-boat sales. So the district policy as drafted excludes non-home ported boats that do not have a moorage agreement with the harbor to conduct off-the-boat sales. Only local boats with the moorage agreement will be allowed. The percentage, there was a strong opinion by several people that a flat fee would be much easier to collect at the beginning. And they recommended that the percentage fee would be very difficult to collect, difficult to confirm. The district has had a long history of collecting percentage fees, and we're very proficient at those percentage fees. And we're recommending that we stick with a 2.5 percentage fee or whatever percentage the board decides upon, as opposed to a flat fee. My recommendation is based on, our staff's recommendation is based on the fact that if you charge a flat fee, it's upfront before the season, before the fishermen receive any sales or income from their catch. And it's very difficult to kind of come up with a fair and equitable amount for each vessel. We tried to come up with those numbers as opposed to just on table 6 and 7. But again, the percentage fee will, regardless of your vessel size, if you have a lot of customers, will be equitable to you, as opposed to maybe a larger vessel who doesn't have as many customers, depending on their catch. So the percentage fee is equitable across the board. It also requires payment after the fisherman has collected the funds. There was discussion about how to track it and having to fill out a separate form. The district has proposed a tally sheet, and it's attached to the cap, but the cap requires, if approved, that the tally sheet be submitted or other documentation that the district is approved. So if you have if a fisherman has another way of tallying their fish, which they're already doing for Fish and Game, and they just want to share that printout with us, and it meets our requirements, we're happy to accept that without making the fisherman do another form to fill out. The tally sheet is just one example that the district put together for their use, but if they have something similar, we're happy to accept that also. The one thing that came up after the final draft was released was involves fishermen who own and operate more than one boat. So they have more than one slip. It's been the practice in the past for the district to say the boat is assigned to a slip, and that can't be, the slips could not be swept or used alternatively by the fishermen. You have to put the boat that's assigned to that slip in that slip. So the cap is written that you have to use your slip. You can't move your boats. Even if you own both slips, you can't just move your boats back and forth. And then there's other people who are in a family business that several family members own boats, and they want to be able to swap out between family members when one boat's selling and another boat's not selling to get a prime location. That will cause a lot of confusion for the harbor master and those trying to regulate the off-boat activities. But the harbor master did state that if the board wants to allow that, he would be able to work with it and come up with a system to track it. So that's the one thing that if the board would like to allow vessels to change their berths and swap out berths, that would be not sell their berths, but swap them out. That would be up to the board. And those were the comments that I received. There is one section of the harbor that we're trying to limit as best as possible for charter boats only, and that's on H dock. So the first 4 or 5 slips we're trying to keep for those slips for charter vessels and not allow off the boat sales on H dock because of that. So the staff still continues to recommend that will eliminate limited commercial activity permits for off the boat sales. It will only issue full capital commercial activity permits. Commercial fishing vessels involved in off the boat sales be required to obtain those permits. Implementation of the percentage-based fee of 2.5 for on gross sales. And staff recommends approval of the attached commercial activity permit for off the boat sales. And to recap the motion, staff's recommendation is approve the commercial activity permit for off the boat sales to include the 2.5 percentage fee on gross sales to be effective January 1st, 2022. And if the board wishes to allow vessels to swap slips, we can add that to this motion and as amended, and I can change the cap to reflect that. Pending any questions, that's my report.
Thank you, Jim. So you laid out the motion. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to approve that motion?
I'd make the motion to approve it, and with the ability to, if somebody was a multiple boat owner and wanted to put, well, I don't want to go into too much detail, but yes, the slip swapping would be okay with me.
Is there a second? I'm going to take public. Sorry, Bill. Sorry.
I will second that if you want to get the motion out there.
Okay. I see. I'm going to take public comment now because we're in the discussion phase of this motion. So let me call on Porter McHenry, who had his hand raised first. Porter, you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
All right. Hi. Yeah, I just had a couple concerns looking over this draft and, possible question. I don't have problems with, I think most of it's pretty good. The concern I have is being able to, I have 2 boats, and the way I read it, I'd be able to, it's unclear, but it seems like I'd be able to go out with one boat, catch and, catch my fish and then take it and sell it off my other vessel. It just seems unclear. And, I believe of the dog sales is you go fishing with your boat, trying guys taking advantage and trying to bear to all the other tenants in the whole harbor. So I don't know if you could add something where you have to catch it with your own vessel. I would love to see that included just to keep people from, trying to play the system. For example, if I bought a lobster boat, I could go fish Southern California and truck them up and selling off my boat here at Pillar Point. And I just truly believe that's not the intention of this program. So that's pretty much my concern and all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Barry Day.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm pretty much for the 2.5% too, because it's a bit too messy otherwise. Excuse me, close the noise. With what Porter was mentioning, and Jim's probably not aware of it, it only stipulates there for the agreement as a receiver's permit, because in the early days, some guys got a wholesaler's permit and they'd be buying fish off other boats, and there'd be a boat in front of me, and really I'm competing against 6 boats. So that receiver's permit can only be used on the boat that caught the fish. So it might be inadvertent, but to reiterate those words, like Porter was saying, I don't have an issue with. With the boat swapping too, there's a bit of guys, like to jump to the front of the line. And I'd be a bit hesitant on that and look at it. With the rest of the stuff there's a couple of points I mentioned with Jim there earlier, which I haven't seen covered. One, I can't find for the life of me a sales tax, because I believe our Fish and Game receiver's license is a permit, and we pay our sales tax to the Fish and Game. I've never heard of a sales tax permit from State Board, which is no longer State Board. So those, but in general, I think the rest of it we can handle with Jim. To get approved. If I have a major hiccup, I'll come back and talk in public comment. But as a general rule of thumb, yeah.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any commissioner comments or questions? So Jim, I actually have a comment, and let me just start off. So first of all, I want to thank you and your staff for putting together a lot of these public meetings, because I attended pretty much all of them, I think, except for one, and they were extensive. And I want to thank the public for participating, because I think whatever policy we end up is actually going to be for the better, because we had all the input. But I do want to address this issue of having fish that isn't caught here or being sold off of our boat or out of our area. I'm not trying to stifle competition, but I'm wondering if we can handle all of that from an infrastructure and safety perspective. I mean, I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but I also, want to be respectful of the fact that there are privileges of, being part of our harbor community, paying the fees, being a tenant, that kind of thing. And I know that some of these boats that might sell fish that are not caught, or what is it, selling fish that's caught, not caught here, they're also tenants too. But I just am wondering if we can handle all of that. And I don't know. I mean, I know it's been discussed in the past.
Well, the requirement of the permit is that the fisherman who is selling the catch must catch the catch on that vessel. So you can't, one vessel can't catch it, bring it in and put it on basically a floating market, and then go back out and still go fishing again while the catch is being sold from another boat. That's not permitted. You have to, the product being sold must be caught by the fisherman who caught it or is under his direct supervision, and it has to be sold from the boat which landed the fish in the first place. So that is a requirement, and we'll make it very clear and spell it out even further in the permits to reflect that. As respect to a vessel who may go up to Seattle and crab or salmon fish out of Seattle's market and then bring it down to here, as long as it's legally landed and then comes into Pillar Point Harbor, and that fisherman sells it from the boat in which he or she caught that fish, then I think it should be permitted. I think there'll be a significant legal challenge if we try to say you cannot sell this fish in this market because it's, I don't want to get too deep into it because I'm not supposed to be a lawyer, but I think there'd be a challenge on that of us permitting or prohibiting that sale over state lines like that. And then I think it's just easier. This is for our fishermen, and those fishermen who fish outside this area and come in and sell from the boat in which they catch it still are our fishermen. And that's the purpose of this program, is to support our fishermen. So I think it should be allowed. Now, again, they can't transfer it to another stationary boat and then sell it from that stationary boat. It has to be sold from the boat in which it's caught.
Okay, so that point, I think, I don't want to speak for the members of the public who made public comment, but that point may not be your first point might not be as clear.
And I'll make it very clear in the staff report. I'll make it very clear in the cap.
I'd like to clarify my interpretation of this. If I had two boats and one was the John M and one boat was the Jim P, I could put the John M in the Jim P slip to sell. Likewise, I could put the Jim P boat in the John M slip to sell. Does that clarify it more for you?
That's my understanding also, the way what you mentioned earlier. But the Jim P would have to sell the catch that only the Jim P caught, and the John M would only sell the catch in which John M. They could not swap they couldn't transfer their catches to each other to sell.
Right. That's how I've interpreted, Tom. I'm assuming that's how you've interpreted it as well.
Yes, I tried to be more specific with an example.
Okay. So if we can just make sure that that's clearer in the language, and I'm assuming that's what Tom's intent is, and that I think is your motion as well, Tom.
Yes.
Based on the legislative intent of this, and there's this bill I think you seconded it, this bill. So does that work for you in terms of the intent of this body?
You're muted, Commissioner Zemke.
Sorry about that. Yes, that is consistent with my my intent.
Okay. And I see that John Warren has his hand up. John, do you want to make a comment, or is that an accidental hand raise?
I would just like to bring up that we also, if we are going to, in fact, allow people to, people that have 2 slips and own 2 boats and are our valued tenants, if we're going to allow them to switch slips, then every marina in the world would require that the boat properly fit the other slip.
Yes.
We can't have, a 60-foot slip or a 60-foot boat trying to squeeze into a 30-foot slip and impeding the fairway and making things dangerous. So they would have to get harbor master permission so that they could safely, it could be deemed they can safely, the other vessel can fit into the unassigned slip.
Okay. Jim, you've got your hand up. Is that intentional or unintentional?
Intentional.
Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt you per se, so I'm raising my hand.
Raise your hand. Thank you.
I just want to clarify also, Commissioner Mateusz said if multi-boat owners have more than one boat and have more than one slip mortgage agreement, there was also an application or an email received from a family member that family has multiple boats in the harbor and multiple slips, but they're all owned by each individual family member and not a single corporation, that are also asking for this opportunity to move their boats to the different slips and swap them out. Of course, making sure they fit with the harbor master's permission. Are we suggesting we should extend that to anybody who makes an agreement to swap a slip as long as the boat fits?
Are you asking the commission or are you asking John?
Right now, so the commission has made a recommendation that only be related to a fisherman who owns 2 boats under the same corporation and owns 2 slips. But there's also a request from the public, because this was brought up after we published the agenda. Do we want to extend that to a family that have several brothers that fish, and they all have their own boat and they want to swap between the brothers, which would really mean anybody can swap a slip as long as the vessel slips or fits? Or do we want to limit it just to those fishermen who own multiple boats?
Personally, I would limit it to fishermen who own multiple boats.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Personally, I would limit it to fishermen who own multiple boats, making sure they fit in the correct slips. Pretty soon, it started looking like a Chinese checkers game with boats moving around. And I don't think that's the intent of what we're trying to approve here.
Now again, that was my understanding. I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that request was out there and have that clarification.
Commissioner Zemke?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Commissioner Ryring?
Yeah. Thank you, Tom, for your comments. You clarified a couple of things here during this discussion for me.
Okay, we do have, because we had so much public input throughout this entire process, I'll keep public comment open. We do have a hand raised by Barry Day. So Barry, you have 2 minutes.
Barry, take yourself off mute.
And we may have to start the clock again, Melanie, if you don't mind.
Have you got me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I own 2 boats and I don't swap catches. There is a but though, where if we're busy and there's one ramp and the guy behind me, beside me is busy as well, I might think, geez, it might pay if I just swap the boats around, not the catch. But there's a thought there, but I'm prepared to live with what you're calling with there. Just a rider on it all. My main beef at the start here with the tax, because first time I was against it, was since I've been in the harbour since 2007, the only thing forward of the dock that I've seen there is a set of handrails go up. So I'm sort of thinking, I'd like to see investment in the docks. Jim has reiterated and that there is dock improvements going ahead. But in saying that, will we be informed and will we see the drawings, etc. there for public input before the go ahead goes there? That's a question.
Okay, thank you. There's another hand raised by Porter McHenry. Porter, you have 2 minutes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I guess this question for Jim, you raised the point that boats are able to fish up in Washington or out of state. And that's been common practice for like the albacore boats. They catch, fill up their fish hold with frozen product and sell it off the boat. But I think it needs to be made clear if you're able to go land your fish, whether out of state or perhaps at Pillar Point Harbor, put them in cold storage and then resell them, so that's just kind of should be made clear. If, guys are able to, when there's a lot of salmon, they could offload salmon, freeze it, and then thaw it out or sell it frozen off their boat in the future. So that's just kind of a gray area, and maybe you can answer that or clarify that for me.
Is that your public comment, Porter? Okay, thank you. Barry, I'll let you make this last public comment.
My hand must have stayed up. Did you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. You heard my first comment, didn't you? About access to for public input or fishermen's input, etc. there on what's happening with the docks. To my mind, I think space between docks is generally 1.5 lengths of a boat, and if we can widen the docks, that would help. Just some configurations there. Just the general ideas, but for input with the drawings there on the design. Hello?
I think we're having connectivity problems, Barry. If you can hear me, we cannot hear you.
Okay. Have you still got me?
Yes.
All right. If you lose my message there, I was just saying, can we see the drawings, with what's being designed at the moment? That's pretty much a yes or no.
Thank you. So actually, we're here to make the final decision today. So we've had extensive public input for the last few months. But Jim, can you hear me? Can you address Porter's question to the commission, whatever your thoughts are?
With respect to Porter's question, the answer is if the fisherman who caught the fish is bringing the fish, selling the fish from the boat in which it was caught, that's fine. The Harbor District is not going to disallow that. I know some fishermen take their fish off and freeze it and bring it back, and there'll be no prohibition against that. But again, it's going to be limited to the vessels, has to be coming back to the vessel that caught the fish itself. You can't give it to other vessels to sell for you. With respect to Barry's question, yes, he's talking about the larger Johnson Pier renovations and the replacements of the docks. And yes, the public will be highly involved with that as much as they want. And we definitely want their input on the final design. So that's more to come, but it's not part of this discussion.
So then can I ask you a question in light of like this potential fish market that we've opened or that we want? So can people process some of their stuff on their boats and then bring it to like the fish market, for example, or can they process things on their boat, their catch?
Not
Like
under our
cook
current,
crab or
not under
I
our
mean-
current, not under the current rules. I don't believe the state allows them to process.
from a health perspective, right?
Right, but we will have an area where people at the fish market that will be provided that if you want to fillet the fish or steak the fish will be allowed there. And that's part of what the district will be supporting at the fisherman's market. We won't be supporting a crab boil.
Right, but then they can process this off the boat, right? And then bring it back on the boat to sell?
As far as I don't see any prohibition from the harbor district.
Okay, so long as they're, paying.
Yeah, it's an off the boat sales.
Part of,
But if they're
Okay.
processing the fish, they would have to get all the health. You'll have to go get a health certificate from the county of San Mateo. If you sell the fish whole and crab live, you don't need that separate health permit from the county. The county looks to the harbors to regulate that themselves. Once you process the fish, you need a county permit.
right, but okay, so if they're selling processed product off of their boat that they've processed off their boat, I'm sorry, if they're selling processed product on their boat that they've processed off their boat, you're saying they can do that?
The district won't prohibit that, but wherever they're processing the fish, they will have to have the full permits from the county.
Yeah, but how do we know that they would have that? What if it just happens? I'm just curious. I don't want us to be in a liable.
I don't see that as a real big concern right now because it's not happening except for some boats are freezing on board and they're still selling the fish whole. But if we do have a situation like that, we can always ask to see the permit.
I know, but then does it defeat the whole purpose of a fish market?
No, the fish market can run with off-boat sales with that. And I think the fish market will be a large attraction and only open during busy weekends or holidays. And then off-the-boat sales is year-round.
Okay, so I see Commissioner Mateusz's hand up. Tom, I'll take your comment or thoughts first, just because your hand has been up. Thank you for waiting.
I believe that you can have your fish processed at Princeton Seafood. So I believe we have a means and a method right now to handle the off-the-boat sales if somebody wants their fish filleted or steaked or whatever.
That is true.
Right, but if you don't have that, then it sounds like what we're allowing is to actually have a fish or product processing on the boat.
That's outside of our wheelhouse. That's different permits. That's not a harbor district issue. That's a health department issue. That's not something we have within our realm to, we can look at it, we can report it, or somebody else can report it. That's not something that the harbor district is concerned with at the moment.
And currently the board last month approved the fish buyers to be able to do that, to sell processed fish in which they bring back from their processing facility on the dock.
Well, but not off their boats, right? Does it make a difference?
The freezer is a freezer. So they're getting the fish processed off of Pillar Point and bringing it back. And all we're doing is saying you can do that if you have the appropriate permits. And now it's up to them to go to San Mateo County and get the proper health permit for processing fish like that.
Okay.
And they're aware of that.
Yeah, okay. So I see Porter McHenry's hand wave. I'm sorry, I'm just processing all of this right now as well. Porter, you have 2 minutes.
Porter, if you could unmute yourself, I've just sent you a request.
I thought I pushed it. I was just practicing to myself. Thank you. Prior to the year, about around the 2000s, there was no dock sales allowed. The three tenants and, Princeton Seafood had the only ability to sell fish off the pier. Now, the fish sales were allowed because of a bad salmon year. Okay, great. It was a good out for people. It's turned into a pretty cool thing. Now talk of, once again, just expanding these off the boat sales. It's just so detrimental as a tenant to hear that, you're basically taking stuff, we pay quite a bit more and allowing just everybody to do under a simple permit. I just request that the dock sales are dock sales, what they're intended to be. You go fishing, you catch your fish. They're not intended to freeze, process, and open up fish markets. If somebody wants to pursue that route, they should approach the district for a commercial activities permit to open up a floating fish market. Then if if it's approved, that's fine. It's gone through the board, and I believe that's the correct process. So I don't know if there's a way we could, not process off of boats. So that's my comments. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. So Jim, I have to say, I kind of agree with that comment. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Mainly because we do have the fish buyers at the end of the pier. And anyway.
Right now, the cap as drafted, they can only sell whole fish caught on that vessel.
Okay.
And that's what's up for discussion. That's the motion as it stands at this moment without a change.
Whole fish or live crab.
I just am trying to understand the unintended consequences and the slippery slope.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what I'm trying to understand. And I know we've had a lot of public input on this, and there's more that I think I see Frank Souza's hand now as well. So.
No, I think those are great points you brought up. And I agree with Porter 100%.
I'll open up, I'll call on Frank Souza to make his public comment. Frank, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Virginia. I would just basically echo what Porter said, and just kind of what the conversation is going, my mind was kind of spinning on processed and this and that. It seems like be able to do whatever we want if we'll be able to compete directly against Albert, which kind of makes him as a tenant of your of the harbor kind of at a disadvantage. I would imagine he has bills to pay and rent to pay and all that. If we're opening up an avenue to just go get a health permit, to do that, I imagine a guy could tent off the back of his boat and basically have a fish market for the weekends. So I don't know. I think you definitely need to clarify that in a very clear manner that's not going to leave. So we've been in the fishing industry lately. So many things that we thought would be better for the industry have ended up just spiraling worse. So I would just err on the side of caution to make sure everything is thought out really well, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So I understand. Oh, Jim, I see that your hand is up.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Frank, and also as drafted the current permit, you have to sell fish whole off your boat that you brought in, and he's right with competing with Albert. So this permit doesn't allow you to process the fish and bring it back. So I would follow a completely separate process and follow kind of what Porter was saying. That's a completely separate issue from this. And this cap only allows you to sell live crab and whole fish from your boat that you caught and not processed.
Okay, so it's a very narrow, it sounds like. Is that, would you characterize it as such, Jim?
Yeah, if you want to get your fish processed, filleted, or steaked, or you cook your crab, you'll have to take it. You can take it to Albert to do that because he provides that service.
And Bill, just so you know, Albert is the owner of, well, the Old Princeton Seafood.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Right. Bill's not an old timer yet. Okay, so there is a motion on the table, which is to approve the commercial activity permit for off the boat sales to include a 2.5% fee on gross sales to be effective January 1st, 2022. That, I believe, is Commissioner Mateusz's motion, seconded by, I believe, Commissioner Zemke. Is that correct, Melanie?
Yes.
Okay.
With the proviso to swap slips.
Okay, so that's the full motion then. And that's what you seconded as well, Bill, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so I don't see any more public comment hands raised. So any other commissioner comments or questions? We've talked this thing to death, but I thought it was a really good discussion and lots of clarification.
Yeah, it always is. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So let's do a roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Mateusz. Commissioner Mateusz.
Tom?
Aye. All of a sudden, Melanie's breaking up bad.
Yeah, Melanie's completely, she's very unclear.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Commissioner Raleigh.
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring. Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who participated in the meetings and provided public input. That it was extremely, extremely helpful. Now we're on to item 16, which is an update to capital improvement project plan tenant row building. Julie, take it away.
Good afternoon, President Chankrell and commissioners. The Harbor Commission approved updates to the capital project plan on the last meeting, October 20th, 2021. And at that meeting, staff was directed to bring forward an additional project for consideration. This item is presented today for board consideration on adding the tenant row building replacement project and updating the capital project plan to include funding for the design and engineering phase of the project in the amount of $150,000. With the current 5-year projection of working capital, the district has sufficient balances to cover this cost. It is estimated that in fiscal year 2025, there will be working capital balance of $4,569,217 that could be used for even more additional capital funding project needs. Staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to proceed with the design and engineering phase of the Pillar Point Harbor tenant row building replacement, estimated at $150,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Julie. I'll open this up for commissioner comments or questions. Commissioner Mateusz?
The idea of replacing tenant row is incredibly appealing to me, and I support anything we can do towards that end.
Thank you.
Oh,
Commissioner Wright?
I'd like to move to approve this item. We can still discuss it with a motion in a second.
I'll
Okay.
second.
So the motion is to authorize the general manager to proceed with the design and engineering phase of the Pillar Point Harbor Tenant Road building estimated at $150,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan, that's your motion, correct?
Correct.
And that's a second by Commissioner Matoush.
Yes.
Okay. Any comments or thoughts from the commissioners?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Simke. I'll open it up to public comment now. I don't see any hands raised, but if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand. Okay, I'll close public comment and let's go for a vote.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Raleigh,
Aye.
Commissioner Schreiering,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. So we're now on item 17. So I'd like to move item 18 up before we get to item 17, if you don't mind. Just because I kind of want to piggyback off of the capital improvement plan in general. And this is the item regarding the multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. I don't know, Jim, if you want to kick off this item.
Be happy to.
Thank you.
We've been working with the county for the past several months in developing our portion and integrating the district into the multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. We're located in volume 2, item number 32. And it's a local plan that lists all our assets and our resources that the district has so that the county in an emergency can pull that up and possibly use our resources. It's also the 3 main functions that we address in our plan or we get prepared for or hazard mitigation would be earthquakes, tsunamis, and sea level rise. And that's what we have in there. And a lot of our projects in the harbor right now, or some of them, are related to sea level rise. And being signatory or having a motion or a resolution adopting the mitigation plan for the harbor district would reflect on us very positively on any grant application that we put in for those sea level rise projects that we're working. So that was one of the major drivers, is in addition just to being a county resources, is to put the district in a good position to apply for any grants by using this as a resource that we're part of. It's our recommendation that the board approve the resolution adopting the mitigation plan. And again, from the aspect of the district, it shows our portion, simply gives a history of the district and then lists all our assets and resources that are available for in case of emergency. And then also that the district kind of identifies those 3 issues as a potential hazard to our district through the harbor and through the marina.
Thanks, Jim. Is that it?
That is it, unless you have questions.
No, I actually have some comments on this issue. I think this is a really great document and it allows for the big picture countywide scenarios to be looked at, as well as our specific unique scenarios at the harbor district to be looked at. We actually had a discussion, well, the fire board that I'm on actually had a discussion about this yesterday that was unique to them. And what I learned is that we should probably, at the harbor district, should probably look at looking at this volume 2 piece of this report, which is specific to the harbor district and the annex plan, and possibly add on some of the things that we would care to, highlight in this second volume of the multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. And I spoke with Jim about it a little bit, and I think that it might be a good idea. And I think he agrees, and Jim, chime in here if you want, because you might not agree now, but when we talked earlier, just to get a sense of, but since we just, as a board, the Harbor Board, just, approved capital projects, and we can put some of those into our section of volume 2. And I was thinking that maybe I could establish an ad hoc committee specifically for this that would focus solely on this multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan, and then possibly have a special meeting with the Department of Emergency Management of the county. I know that Jim's been working with Ann Ludwig from there, but also former Fire Chief Dan Belville, who is the head of the Department of Emergency Management, might be able to come and speak to us about some of the things that might be pertinent to the Harbor District at a special meeting. But I was hoping that maybe this ad hoc committee could identify some things that we could put into volume 2 that we would want to highlight. I mean, Jim, what do you think of that?
I know the county has a deadline to adopt this or get the resolutions from the different jurisdictions. And I believe if we delay this until the early December, we'll still meet that deadline. But any later than that, we'll miss the deadline for the county. So
Right.
if the board would like a full presentation by the county OES, I can reach out and have that done, and also go into detail about what the plan is and what our section of the plan is and how that relates to other sections. So if the board would like that, I can make it happen.
Okay, I think that voting on this at our December meeting will not delay anything that the county would need, at least based on what I saw last night at the fire board meeting, because that's been delayed as well. And I just want to make sure that we get all of the things that we want into our specific area in volume 2. Any comments or questions by the commissioners? Commissioner Ryring?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, Virginia. And you're saying Bill and Tom for the ad hoc?
Well, I was thinking of having Commissioner Mateusz and Commissioner Zemke on there just because, we oversee 2 marinas on both sides of the peninsula. So, Commissioner Mateusz having a business in here in the harbor for decades, I thought, he'd be very familiar with what's going on, and Commissioner Zemke with his education and professional background in civil engineering and his being a South San Francisco resident and being familiar with Oyster Point, he would be a good choice as well. So they would be the ad hoc committee members for this multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation ad hoc. And I think it'd be a very, very short amount of time. Basically, maybe work with the general manager on identifying things based off of our capital projects based off of our priorities that we put together last month and approved last month. And then at our special meeting, which I'm hoping will be in early December before our regular meeting, we could have this discussion with the county with projects or scenarios identified by the ad hoc committee. Jim, does that make sense? That I'm just off the cuff right now that I'm thinking out loud.
Staff can support that.
Commissioner Mateusz and Commissioner Zemke, would y'all be willing to just serve on this ad hoc committee for probably the next month or so?
I'd be honored.
That works for me since my schedule has been cleared, unfortunately.
Okay. So then why don't we delay taking any action on this particular item with with, you know, in today with the commission, and the direction would be having the ad hoc committee work with staff to identify projects and then possibly schedule a special meeting. And let me look at my calendar. Our harbor board meeting for December, I think, is December 15th,
Yes.
right? So would it be possible to have a special meeting with the county if they're available? And maybe we should check, but maybe I'm proposing a date of December 8th. Does that work for everybody? That would be the second Wednesday of the month.
That would work with me.
Me too.
Yes.
So that would be the special meeting, which means that the ad hoc committee would have to, that committee meeting would have to happen before December 8th. So maybe Tom, Bill, Jim, and Julie or John can work out the timing for that based on your schedules.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it works for me.
Jim?
Works for our staff. Staff
Okay.
can support that.
Okay, thank you. So then we'll just hold off on this item until next month. So we can just make sure that the multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan item is on the December 15th agenda. That would be terrific. Any public comments out there on this? Okay. Then let's move on to our last discussion item today, which is item now 17 or 18 now, proposed resolution opposing oil and gas drilling in federal and state waters off the California coast. Jim.
Can you make sure I have the right report up?
Item 17.
I had it up and then got backwards. This is a staff report resulting from an agenda item from last meeting in which Commissioner Reiering requested that the district consider a resolution opposing offshore drilling for oil and natural gas, and have the district oppose any of that offshore drilling for oil or natural gas. So district reached out to a couple different communities and considered their language and their proposals. And so to make sure that it was a unified approach, and drafted the attached resolution 2117 opposing the gas drilling in federal and state waters off of the California coast. And then also the resolution itself has a provision in it where we would forward the resolution to local political offices for their state representatives in San Mateo County and other interested parties. And the resolution, I can read it out loud line by line if you like, Commissioner.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Jim.
Okay. It's resolution number 2117, a resolution of the San Mateo County Harbor District protecting our ocean and coast from offshore oil and gas drilling and exploration activities. Whereas the San Mateo County Harbor District and its visitors enjoy California's beaches and Pacific Ocean for recreational and commercial activities, all of which support our local economy. And whereas our district residents value our state's ocean and coastal waters, which provide habitat to a vast array of wildlife, including fish, whales, pinnipeds, sea turtles, and birds that depend on a healthy and clean environment. And whereas in California, hundreds of thousands of jobs and billions of dollars of state's gross domestic product depend on clean water, oil-free beaches, and abundant fish and wildlife. And whereas offshore oil and gas drilling places coastal communities at an economic and ecological risk from oil spills and the pollution brought by routine drilling operations, threatening the lives and livelihoods of small business owners, particularly commercial and recreational fishermen. And whereas a massive oil spill in 1969 off the coast of Santa Barbara fouled coastal waters and caused catastrophic economic and environmental damage. And whereas in May 2015, a pipeline ruptured near Refugio State Beach in the Santa Barbara County and spilled oil into the Pacific Ocean, with oil reaching as far south as Orange County, damaging wildlife, closing beaches, and impacting recreational and commercial activities. And whereas a major spill off Huntington Beach in October 2021 dumped a significant amount of oil into the coastal waters, resulting in beach closures, impacts to recreational and commercial activities, and significant environmental and economic damage. And whereas the state of California prohibits new oil and gas leases in state waters due to the unacceptably high risk of damage and disruption to the marine environment, and whereas the governor of California, the state Senate, the state Lands Commission, and several cities have taken a stand against new federal offshore oil and gas leases in the Pacific Ocean, and several municipalities have called for a ban on offshore drilling. Whereas expanding the offshore drilling off the coast of California would deepen the state's dependence on fossil fuels and undermine the efforts and address the climate change and reducing the greenhouse gas emissions and moving towards renewable energy. Now, therefore, the Board of Harbor Commissioners of San Mateo County Harbor District does hereby resolve the San Mateo County Harbor District supports a permanent ban on new offshore and gas drilling, fracking, or other stimulation in federal state waters off the California coast, and no new federal oil gas leasing in all U.S. waters, including off the coast of California. The Deputy Board Secretary shall forward a copy of this resolution to the U.S. Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland, and Governor Gavin Newsom, U.S. Senators Dianne Feinstein and Alex Padilla, as well as U.S. Congressional and state representatives for the San Mateo County Harbor District and any other interested parties. Passed and adopted by the Board of Commissioners, San Mateo County Harbor District at a regular meeting thereof held on the 17th day of November, 2021.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioner Ryring, I think you wanted to put this on the agenda. So do you have any remarks that you would like to make?
I would just like to thank you, Jim, for crafting such a beautifully worded resolution. And I'd like to make a motion to support it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any commissioner comments or questions?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was a little bit mixed on this. I agree with everything in the resolution. However, being a fisherman, I have to say that there's rigs to reef programs. There's a lot of things where environmental groups are hell-bent on punishing oil companies by dismantling rigs in the water, whether it's off the coast of California or off the coast of the Gulf of Mexico or the East Coast. If you want fish, you've got to go to the oil rigs because structure brings in fish. So nothing in this talked about the destruction of the existing rigs. So therefore I'll support it, but it is difficult to think about the groups that want to take down these rigs and eliminate structure that holds fish for commercial and recreational fishermen as well.
Okay. So I actually support this as well, especially since I think a month ago we were dealing with the spill off of the Huntington Beach coast, which is what I think prompted this resolution to be brought to our commission. I think that, you know, in terms of, I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Matoush, but I also, you know, when trying to balance the environmental stakes here and also, you know, as much as we can, the economic stakes. I mean, it's not easy, but I think that a sustainable environment is really important to our economy. And I think it's good that as an elected body that we are taking a position on this. And so I definitely support this. So Commissioner Wiring, thank you for bringing this to our attention and putting it on the agenda. And Jim, thank you very much for putting together a resolution that outlines the history of the oil spills that are important for us in California to be aware of, and that could lead to the resolution that we're about to approve. Commissioner Ryring, I think that your hand is up.
Yeah, I just also wanted to thank the members of the public who wrote in. I did check this morning when I was looking over, final time, the agenda, and there were quite a few members of the public who wrote in support of this resolution. So if any of you are on this call or watching the video, thank you.
Yes, I second.
All those emails are posted to the website.
Yes, I saw that. Thank you. And I agree with you, Nancy. Thank you for kind of shining a light on members of the public who are advocating for this.
Yeah.
So if there are any other members of the public here right now who would like to make a comment, you may do so by raising your hand. I don't see any hands raised, so let's, I see William Smith.
Sorry, I had to hit the unmute button here. I just wanted to reiterate the points that Tom was making about the oil rigs and habitat for sustainable fisheries. In the past, we have been shot down many times for maintaining the habitat by taking these no longer used derricks, cutting them off 100 feet below the surface and toppling to the side where they are completely out of range of any vessel hitting them, but increases the bottom habitat. Fish need habitat in order to survive and thrive and build more, raise more fish. I just wanted to reiterate what Tom Mateo said on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Then I'll close public comment and let's do a roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Chan-Crowley?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz?
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. And that is the end of the discussion session of our agenda. And so let's move on to commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments?
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Zemke?
Just like to thank Jim and the staff for all the effort that went into the off the boat dock sales. I know that was a lot of work, and I really do appreciate the amount of effort that he went through to listen to comments and to factor them into the final proposals. Also, I just wanted to note that for Oyster Point, I happened to be out there on Monday and at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the Ouida Ferry has resumed service. And there were about 20 to 30 people that go off the ferry, and also the smaller ferry from Prop SF dropped off about 7 people at about the same time at the guest dock. The construction out there is continuing. The new Bay Trail along the Kilroy project has been opened so that you can walk along the Bay Trail once again. Hopefully in the next few months, the construction will wrap up and things will start going back to normal. Noted too that king tides are coming up in the first, I think the 4th or 5th of December.
Yeah.
And they will be kind of at midday. So I think I'm hoping that that's an opportunity that I can go out there and get kind of a firsthand look at what kind of impact the king tides are having on our, primarily the access to docks 1 through 6. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Zemke. Commissioner Ryring?
No, nothing to add. Thanks.
Commissioner Matoush?
I'd like to just comment on what a marvelous affair we had in the installation of the life rings and how many people attended, the touching speeches by the family and friends of the family. We had a tremendous Coast Guard demonstration. The Harbor District received incredible positive coverage from 4 different channels on television, and it just highlights the excellent work that the current leadership and staff of the Harbor District is doing in setting that up and executing that so finely.
Yes, you're here.
Great. And I would like to echo that sentiment as well. Jim and John, y'all did, and Chris Tibby, you did an amazing job in getting the Life Ring event set up and executed. It was an amazing event, and it showed our commitment to ocean and water safety and water rescue. We've made it a high priority. But this is nothing new. I mean, it's been a high priority for many years, as many of our volunteer water rescuers have shown. Jeff Clark was there, and he started this in 1994. I think that a lot of people there. We had about close to, I would say, about 300 people. It was a very, very well attended event by the public, family members of the little boy who drowned, Arune Pruti, Sea Valor. The U.S. Coast Guard did a wonderful demonstration. So thank you, Jim, for arranging that. I think people loved that. Coastside Fire, the Sheriff's Office, and state parks and county parks. I mean, these are all partners that we have been able to work with. And I am so proud of this board and our staff in this district for being able to work collaboratively with this and actually move things along, because I know that we all truly care about water safety. I think the public understands that as well. There could be no doubt after that event. I know that the Arune Foundation and Sea Valor want to continue to partner and collaborate with us, as do the respective emergency response or first responding agencies, such as Coastside Fire and the locally and the Sheriff's Office. So kudos to everyone here, and many, many, many thanks to the public who were there. They know that we are committed to this. I mean, I think, 300 people showing up, there's no mistaking that we are committed to safety on our coast. I also want to thank Jim for the many public session and public meetings that we have had regarding, off the boat sales and all the commercial activity permit issues. Jim, you've done a fantastic job in, kind of getting public comment, synthesizing it, listening to members of the public, even outside of the meetings. You have done an amazing job. So thank you for that. I think that the Harbor District is in a much more stable place now than we were. That this is probably the most stable, and we having grown from in 2020 until now, that I've seen in the last 6 years. I want to thank the board member, particularly Commissioner, those who are here, Commissioner Ryering, Zemke, and Matoush, for all of the support and the work you've put into, moving the Harbor District forward and accomplishing a lot of things this year. And I know that the public appreciates all of that. And there's still more work to do. But I know that, we're doing a great job, and we're going to continue to do a great job. So thank you so much for all of that. And Jim, really thank you for this event on Wednesday. I have heard nothing but great things, and people commenting on how they're very happy that we've committed ourselves and have been committed. This is not a first time commitment. We have been very committed to public safety. You probably want to say something about the parade coming up, or do you want me to say something?
I just want to interrupt before you exit.
Okay,
this
please,
subject.
Commissioner Ryrie.
I do want to also thank you, Virginia, for your advocacy on this issue. As Eric Jones, the founder of Sea Valor, said, this event would not have happened without your advocacy, the way you connected so many disparate groups in the community in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. It's impossible to overstate how much work you put into this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nancy. But, honestly, there's no way this could have happened without the support of many, many, including everyone on this screen right now. And Chris Tibby, I know he's an attendee. Chris has been instrumental in getting this off the ground. So thank you. Thank y'all for everything that you've done. Jim, I'm gonna stop right here because I want you to talk about the parade too. The Night of Lights parade.
In addition to my activity report, which is part of the agenda, a few other things. First, thank you to the board for the comments on the professionalism of the ring cutting ceremony or ribbon cutting ceremony. Couldn't have happened without the support of John and Julie and Chris and the entire Pillar Point staff, since I was otherwise occupied and couldn't participate. But they did a fantastic job, and I agree. Nothing but positive responses, and I've already gotten communications about how to make the program even larger along the San Mateo coast. So we'll be supporting Sea Valor and others on that. With respect to other activities of the harbor, the holiday season, unfortunately, I made the decision several months ago based on COVID that we wouldn't be doing the vessel lighting in the harbor this year. And it's too late to turn that back on, but we will be participating in the Half Moon Bay Chamber of Commerce Nights of Lights parade on December 3rd. We'll be pulling either the jet skis or one of the boats, depending on the status of our boats, behind the truck. And I offer the opportunity to any commissioner or staff member who wants to participate to walk along the truck and jet skis or ride in the back of the truck during the parade route. If you're interested in that, please let me know and we shall make that happen. But I'm looking forward to that event. And again, Chris Tibby volunteering his time outside normal work hours to support that program, and I'll be there with him.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, so I think we kind of skipped over future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items that anyone wants to put on? Okay, Jim, I think you kind of gave your activity report, kind of, unless you want to say more, which, I mean, there's so much that you've done. Is there anything else you'd like to highlight?
One other activity that we're working on, and it will be a future agenda item, is stormwater reclamation. So we're working hard on putting a program together for the board to consider where the Harbor District collects stormwater runoff to clean it before it's reused in the harbor or released to the harbor. It will help out with drought situations and reusing the stormwater. It will also help with the TMDL, but that's going to be a future agenda item when we go into detail, but for the board's awareness, we are working on that.
Thank you, Jim. John, the operations manager, do you have anything that you would like to highlight?
I would just reiterate what's already been said about the Wednesday ribbon cutting event for the life-saving devices, the ring life-saving devices. Brad Damitz wasn't really mentioned here, but he's the one that helped us with all of our permitting. And then I saw firsthand, how deeply our general manager cared from the very onset. Regretfully, very regretfully, decades ago, our general manager suffered a loss due to our frigid, deadly water, sometimes deadly waters. And then Virginia, you and all commissioners support I think it was just a tremendous thing to be involved in. And again, I'll say Pillar Point Harbor staff led by Chris Tibby and Dante Madrigal really were the spearhead of getting everything prepared there. But our general manager says he wasn't able to participate, which isn't true. I've got to contradict him there. He showed up after appendicitis, having an operation the day before. He was there and reminded me that we needed to track down the ribbon before the cutting. I assumed we had it there, but so he played an instrumental part even in his compromised condition. Nothing exciting, fortunately, at either harbor. I do feel it necessary on behalf of my Pillar Point Harbor team to make clear that any news reports or earlier comments about our vessels not being, or two vessels being down at the same time, and that somewhat hindering any opportunity to render assistance is simply not accurate. Anybody can ask any of our staff if at any time both of our rescue vessels were down. That's not true. In addition to our two rescue vessels, which of course boats break down, we've got jet skis. We've got our rescue watercraft that could also respond. Not to mention, all of our partners with the Coast Guard and other local authorities. We've got sheriff's boats as well. But I want everyone to know our board of harbor commissioners and our general manager, and again, this can be verified by any staff, have never told me as director of operations that we don't have enough money to properly maintain and purchase new any equipment we need. It's already been demonstrated by us totally spending $500,000 totally building a brand new state-of-the-art rescue vessel, the Radden, a few years ago, and purchasing brand new jet skis whenever we need them. Just in the 5 years I've been here, we've bought 2 new sets. So we're in good shape at both facilities, and we appreciate all the support from our general manager and our board of harbor commissioners.
Thank you, John. Julie, administration.
Thank you, President Chencarelli. For the administration, we have been in meetings pretty much all day, every day for the last month. Even before that, we were in training. The staff is working extremely hard to get a new ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning System, installed. We're using Encode made by Tyler Technology. And so we're juggling a lot of balls right now. We have a couple people that are backfill for us to try to help us out. We're shuffling around staff to kind of fill in the blanks, but we are working very, very hard to get a system that will benefit the district for years to come. There's going to be a lot of new functionality within this system that automates certain things, but there's also going to be a lot of changes on the way employees do their work. So rolling this out is a major task. We have some very talented people on our finance team that are doing an amazing job and getting files created and trying to move old system data that was developed before the 2000s into the new system, where it's including, brand or very, very old coding in the old system. And it's just not an easy process. But so if the administration team, is, a little slow to respond to anybody. That's kind of the explanation for that. And we expect to have a new system fully up and operational by May of next year.
Thank you, Julie. I just want to make a couple more comments because I need to do a couple of major shout outs. One is to Flor Nicholas, Councilwoman of South San Francisco. She was the one who put Eric Jones in touch with the Harbor District because of a friend of hers who works with Eric. And since then, we got the ball rolling with Jim Pruitt kind of working with me and working with Eric on getting these life rings installed and getting the permits done. But I do want to acknowledge and thank Councilwoman Flor Nicholas for the initial touch in the connection between Eric Jones and the Harbor District. And, a lot of that is that she understands our work and the importance of our work. And, the strong working relationship we have with South San Francisco. So, Jim, if you talk to Mike Futrell, the city manager, if you could just convey our thanks, that would be wonderful. Number two, Julie Van Hoff. I know that Jim talked about the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. This is not the first time, and I think that this is a pattern of success and excellence. So thank you so much for making sure that our budget is in great form and, being recognized, right? And the work that you're doing with your outstanding finance team, for sure, it deserves to be recognized. So thank you. Thank you. If you could please convey our thanks to your team on behalf of the board, that would be awesome. And John Moran, thank you so much for bringing up the water rescue, and the water rescue issue. I agree with you that we have a fantastic water rescue team, which is the reason that we're even moving forward with understanding how we can enhance this capability, which the board voted unanimously to look at last month. So anyone who thinks that the Harbor District and our water rescue team is putting any member of the public, any visitor from anywhere at risk is sorely mistaken and should actually look at the actual accomplishments. So I just want you to please thank them for all of their work and just know that they have our full support as well as the public support, as we saw last Wednesday, November 10th, when so many people showed up to not only to deal with and honor, the ribbon cutting of our life rings, but quite frankly, to show that, that our water rescue team and the Harbor Patrol personnel and, anyone who's involved with that is very much appreciated. And I think that outpouring outweighs any negativity that you're hearing and, the false accusations, but just know that your team has the support of the board, the district, and the public. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Chan-Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
The meeting's adjourned at 3:33. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks.